Hare Krishna. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Prachadane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschatadesha Tadane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're studying Upadeshamrita, this short work by Srila Rupa Goswami. We covered 3 verses yesterday discussing the various obstacles to practicing devotional service, and also some favorable items such as enthusiasm and determination, etc. Okay. So the 4th verse continues with the positive aspects of association. So in this particular verse, verse 4, we get 6 characteristics of priti, or affection, which refers to association with devotees. How do we interact with other devotees and show our affection? So we got these 6 items: dadati, pratigranati, guhyam akyati, pritchati, bhunkte, bojayate, chaiva. 6 distinct items. So affection among devotees is establishing a relationship, positive relationship. And in the material world also, we establish relationships by various interactions. It's not a one-way, action of both. There's an action and a response, action and response. So the same with devotional association or interaction. Devotees also interact in these different ways. So there are acts of giving and receiving. So what do? We give something. In other words, we give a gift. And we also accept a gift. So I give a gift, other person gives a gift. So it's reciprocal. And this creates some sort of affection. Of course, in terms of bhakti, we're not expecting that I will give a gift in order that he gives me a gift back. That's very material. So just as with worshiping Krishna, we offer a flower to Krishna. We don't expect to get, $1,000 back or whatever. We just expect, I'm serving this to please Krishna, that's all. So we offer things to devotees with the expectation of simply pleasing them. But devotees naturally like to respond nicely, so they also give back. So we receive things and we give things. So this is one type of interaction. Another is giving and receiving knowledge. Objects are fine, but obviously knowledge is better. So if you can give valuable information to a person or receive that information, that's also a nice interchange. So exchanging knowledge or realization. This is a way in which we express our affection. So in other words, a devotee will express his affection by giving proper instructions to a person. And the other person, he may not be capable of instructing, but he shows his affection by receiving and implementing the instructions. In any case, there's some sort of interchange there. And then the third one is food, giving and receiving food. To accept food from others or to feed other persons. So this is also an interchange, which is very common in the material world also. We see people like to eat together, and they invite another person to their house and feed them, and then the other person invites the other person to his house and he feeds him, whatever. So exchanging food is also a sign of affection. There are many other things also we could exchange, but these are the main ones mentioned here, these 6 exchanges. So all of this is taking place as one of the items of devotional service. In Nectar of Devotion, after describing 64 types of devotion, Rupa Goswami points out 5 items as most powerful. One is Shravanam, or hearing scripture, particularly Srimad Bhagavatam. Kirtan, chanting, especially the name of Krishna. Archana, or serving the deity with great affection. And then the 4th item is associating with like-minded devotees. And the 5th one is living in the holy Dham like Vrindavan. So this exchange is the characteristic of association. How do we associate? So we carry out these 6 types of activities, and this produces the proper association. Association is also important because this is actually the cause of bhakti. We have hearing, chanting, worshiping, living in the Dham. These are types of bhakti. But to create, to act on these different items, we need faith. And faith is caused by association also. So ultimately, the mercy of devotees produces the faith by which we can execute hearing, chanting, worshiping, and living in the holy Dham. So in this way, we see association as very, very important. And if we look at the different items, hearing, etc., hearing also involves association. If you're hearing from somebody, so you're getting instructions from someone. In worshiping the deity, usually we worship in association with other devotees. We live in the holy Dham, we're living with other devotees. So association is carried out throughout the other practices of devotional service also. So in verse 3, it mentions that one of the activities of a devotee is to give up bad association. So the positive way of stating that is to take good association. So, well, of course, we have to define what is good association. But in any case, in that good association, then we will associate in different ways. Of course, association means coming close to a person, but because we're in the material world, we cannot always be in proximity to devotees. If we're walking down the street, there's going to be all sorts of people there. Some are going to be very materialistic, some may be drunk or whatever, and we have to pass by them. So it's impossible, as long as we are in society, to avoid, contacting different types of people who are asat or not spiritual. So when we talk about avoiding the bad association, we're not talking about just staying off the streets and sitting in your house all day. Rather, we're talking about a more intimate type of association. That is when you actually establish a bond of friendship with another person. That is when the association will have profound effect on the individual. If you have a friend and you have affection for the friend, you tend to absorb his qualities, his likes, his dislikes, or her likes and dislikes. So it's a very powerful influence on a person, that friendly association. So in other words, it's not association or sangha, not just means you're on the same street or next to the person or happen to touch, but rather when you establish a strong, affectionate relationship. This is, which can cause a lot of problems if it's asat, but it can also be a good thing. So we have satsanga, which is the opposite, avoiding the bad association. We have association with sat, or the devotees. So the sign of that affection would be these different exchanges. So we offer gifts and receive gifts, etc. Or we give knowledge, or we receive knowledge. Very, very important for us. Or give prasad or receive prasad. We see in the beginning of ISKCON, prasad was very important. So Prabhupada would cook, go in the kitchen and cook, and then he would be distributing chapatis and rice and dal to all the devotees. And they became very attracted to eating prasadam. So this was an exchange where Prabhupada was giving and the devotees were receiving. And this established an affectionate relationship. Of course, the other thing Prabhupada did in the early days of the movement, even though there were not too many books available, only 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he started doing Bhagavad Gita and other books after that point. But every day he was giving lectures, so he was giving knowledge, and the devotees were receiving knowledge. Again, it's a way of establishing this sangha, or affectionate relationship. So these different activities are ways in which we can increase the connection between the two. And it's because it's devotional, it is always beneficial. The association is very strong, either positively or negatively. So in the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami gives the example of a crystal. Crystal is clear, and a piece of quartz. If we put it near a blue flower or a black object, it will look blackish. If we put it near a red flower, it will look red. Put it near a yellow flower, look yellow. So people are like crystals. They associate closely with another person, they will tend to pick up the qualities of that particular person. That's the nature of the human being. So the intelligent people, a person will have to be very careful on who he associates with, because he doesn't want to develop bad qualities. He wants to preserve or increase his good qualities. So therefore the intelligent person will choose association, proper association, which will increase his good qualities. So the unintelligent person, he'll just associate with anybody who generally his qualities are going to degrade. So association, very important. We avoid the asatsanga, material association, and we associate with sat, that is devotees of the Lord. And this is a major way in which we can advance in devotional service. And so we do that by these interactions. Of course, we see that we may be prominently the receiver, and another person is the giver, especially of knowledge. So the one who is more qualified, like a guru, he will give the knowledge, and the disciple or the student will receive the knowledge. And then we don't expect the student to start teaching and make the guru take the knowledge from him, because the student doesn't have any knowledge to give. So in some cases, it's more one-sided. The more qualified person will give the knowledge, the other one will receive it. In terms of giving gifts, it's not like that. In fact, it's often the opposite. The person in the lower position will give more gifts, and he's not expecting the senior person to give gifts back. In terms of food, of course, we see the Prabhupada is giving out the food, but in general, the devotees will feed the superior person. In terms of equals, then it's often equal exchange. We give knowledge, receive knowledge from an equal. We feed the person or receive the food from another person. We give and we receive gifts. So it's kind of equal. In any case, this establishment of the relationship with these different activities creates that affectionate bond, and then the influence can take place. Okay. So that verse was about association, and of course it implies that we're giving up the bad association and taking the good association. So the next verse is very interesting because it talks about the different types of devotees, and this also, when we know about the types of devotees, then we have different ways we relate to different types of devotees. So in this verse, it is stated that one should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Krishna. So they may not be doing everything in devotional service, but at least they respect the name of Krishna. They chant the name. Okay. It's one type of devotee, not the highest. It's the lowest type of devotee. This is called the Kanishta, who mentally honor them. One who's more serious, here Rupa Goswami says he takes diksha, or initiation, and worships the deity. So this is a serious person. This we say is the madhyama. And one should associate with and faithfully serve the devotee who is skillful in worship and whose heart is completely devoid of criticizing others. This is a very elevated person. So this is the uttama devotee. So here we have a description of three types of devotees. In the Nectar of Devotion, also in the Bhagavatam, we have different descriptions of devotees. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes different types of devotees. The devotees from Navadvip would yearly walk down to Puri and visit Lord Chaitanya and stay there for 4 months. And then they would walk back and stay in Bengal for 8 months or whatever. So one year they came down to Puri, and those devotees asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is a Vaishnava? Huh? And Lord Chaitanya answered, he who chants the name once is a Vaishnava. So they were rather surprised. How can it be? Anyone that chants like Ajamil chants the name of Narayan or whatever. What is this? Just chanting once, it's not a very serious person. But they did not want to protest, so they kept quiet. And then they went back to Bengal, and for 8 months they were sitting there. But they were wondering, why did Lord Chaitanya say, you chant once, you're a Vaishnava? So the next year they made a little plan, and they went back, and they asked Lord Chaitanya the same question, who was a Vaishnava? And then if Lord Chaitanya says the same thing, then okay, he really said it, we didn't make a mistake, we heard properly. But then Lord Chaitanya gave a different answer. Huh? Okay, that's not that. The next year he came back, and then the Lord Chaitanya said, he who constantly chants, he is a Vaishnava. So then devotees were rather satisfied with that answer. They went back to Bengal. But they thought again, well, why he gave 2 different answers? He doesn't forget anything, so why he said one thing first year, something else the second year? So they thought about it. 3rd year they went back and they asked the same question, who was a Vaishnava? And then Lord Chaitanya said, anyone who chants, and by hearing him, one also begins to chant the name purely. He is a Vaishnava. So then they understood, there's 3 types of Vaishnavas. He's talking about the less serious one, the more serious one, and the most advanced devotees. So we have devotees, but they're of all different sorts. So the Bhagavatam definition gives the Kanishta as one who respects the deity, but he doesn't have much knowledge. He doesn't associate with devotees. As a result of not having much knowledge, his chanting is not very pure. He's got all sorts of misconceptions. The Madhyama chants the holy name constantly according to Lord Chaitanya. He avoids asatsanga. He avoids all the people who are materialists. He teaches the innocent. He associates with other devotees. And then he honors Guru, according to this verse, and takes Diksha. So this is more advanced devotee, serious, chanting constantly. He gets knowledge through devotee association. He teaches those who are less advanced. He avoids the asatsanga. So this is a good stage for devotional advancement. So then the 3rd type of devotee, Lord Chaitanya says, one who chants constantly. No, this is the second one actually. Who chants constantly, he is the best Vaishnava. That's the Madhyama. And this is the verse that supports that, in Bhagavatam. In relation to the verse of Nectar of Instruction, where it says, one gives respect to the devotee who has taken initiation. So that's an additional element which is introduced in this particular verse, not mentioned in the Bhagavatam when it talks about the Madhyama, etc. So we should also examine what is this Diksha. And it's also discussed a lot in our movement. What is Diksha and its importance, and what is the power of the Diksha Guru, and who is the Shiksha Guru, who's more powerful, etc. So we have a lot of controversies about Diksha and the process and what it does, and then is it more important than Shiksha, etc. We have these particular verses which are quoted. The first verse is quoted in the Nectar of Instruction. It's also quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavatam. It's quoted with another verse, the second verse there, in the Bhakti Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami. So this gives the most traditional Gaudiya perspective on what is Diksha or initiation. And of course, we take the exact translation. Diksha is so called by the wise because it bestows divyagyanam, or transcendental knowledge, and destroys sin. So diksha, div for divyagyanam, ksha for kshaya, papasya kshaya, destruction of sin. So in other words, it's an abbreviation of that. The definition is abbreviated to the word diksha. But this is not the diksha. Anyone who gives transcendental knowledge and destroys sin as a diksha guru. No, it doesn't mean that. The second verse here talks about receiving Vaishnava mantra. So this becomes the defining factor of diksha, that the diksha guru gives you a particular Vaishnava mantra, which is actually secret and is used for deity worship. So that's why we say when you get a second initiation, you are qualified to worship the deity because you got the mantra. So this is not a kirtan mantra. It's not something you publicly give out to everybody. It is something you utter to yourself and offer to the deity. And when you offer items to the deity, you chant this mantra. But it's not public. So that actually technically is the diksha. And it's through the mantra that you get your divijnanam and destroy your sin. That is the process of diksha, which is explained in the commentary by Jiva Goswami. So what is the divijnanam? What's the transcendental knowledge? Knowledge of the form of the Lord, knowledge of one's particular relationship with the Lord in the sacred mantra. So in the mantra, we'll get the name of the Lord. In our case, we get Krishna. So that's the form of the Lord we worship because we get a Krishna mantra. Some people may get a Vishnu mantra. Some people may get a Ram mantra. So that's the form of the Lord that's revealed in the mantra. That's their divijnanam. What is the relationship? We have the word swaha or namaha to indicate offering of respects. So we are the servant of Krishna. We don't become Krishna, we become the servant of Krishna. So therefore the relationship and the form of the Lord are inherent in the mantra that we receive from the Diksha Guru. So what do we do with the mantra? It is mainly used for deity worship. So Rupa Goswami says, therefore, this is a good practice for rich grihastha householders because they have enough money they can spend on fruits and flowers and decorations and ornaments and whatever, and temple, whatever, whereas a renounced person doesn't have that fund. So this is particularly for householders to engage their wealth. So they take diksha and worship the deity. So that's the strict definition of what diksha is. So we get the spiritual knowledge, we destroy the sin, etc., through the process of diksha, but it is through the mantra that it happens, by which we understand the form of the Lord and our relationship with the Lord. But we do know that chanting this mantra is not our main process. It is definitely deity worship as part of the process, but the main process is Nam Sankirtan, which is not diksha. So we got two processes going on: diksha with archana, that's one process. And we got chanting the holy name. This is technically called Bhagavata Marga. So we have two margas here, Archana Marga and Bhagavata Marga. And for Archana Marga, we have diksha. For Bhagavata Marga, chanting holy name, no diksha, just chanting Hare Krishna. However, in chanting the name, yes, everybody can chant, and it's not secret, public. Everybody can do it, everybody can hear it. But if we are to get prema, we have to chant purely, Sudanam. To chant purely, we need knowledge. Where do we get the knowledge from? We need some shiksha. So therefore, though name does not need diksha guru, if we want to chant the name to attain prema, then we need shiksha. So we need shiksha guru, at least we need some teachings. So though chanting the name is the main process, we do not reject the other processes of bhakti. They're all ways in which we can attain the Lord. Main process is chanting the holy name, but along with that we have these other four items like deity worship, hearing, sadhu sangha, living in the holy dham, etc. So we also perform the archana or deity worship, and it's also useful for us because through the process of deity worship we can engage all of our senses like the eye, etc. We can see the deity, we can serve the deity using our hands and feet, etc. So it's good opportunity to help control the mind by engaging various senses. So we always usually accompany the chanting of the holy name with deity worship and other things. So Prabhupada started the movement by chanting Hare Krishna, but then he also established temples, and he also established deities. Okay, so the Madhyam Adhikari, the Madhyam devotee, one who is serious about chanting, chants many times, not once, who gets knowledge through devotees. He has a devotee association. He gets knowledge, therefore he can chant purely. He's in a very good position. And he also, if he takes Diksha, then he's qualified for deity worship. So in this way we have the two different processes simultaneously going on, but we always put more emphasis upon chanting of the holy name, the kirtan movement. Diksha can also be described in another way. This is what we call pancha samskara. So it's not just getting the mantra, it involves 5 items. One is tilak, that's this. One is called tapa, or branding, where you take hot metal images of Kancha and Chakra and brand your shoulders. Getting a name like Krishna Das or Chaitanya Das or Sham Sundar Das, etc. 4th is the mantra. So that's the essential part of the Diksha. And then the actual process of Archana. So these are called 5 purificatory rites involved in Vaishnava Diksha. Along with that, we have another type of Diksha. It's the Vedic Diksha or Vaidika Diksha. That is getting the Brahma Gayatri mantra, which qualifies you to study the Vedas. Traditionally, this is done for a 5-year-old boy in India. They call it the Upanayinam Samskar. And then you get a thread, and they give you the Gayatri mantra, and you're qualified to study the Vedas. You go to the Guru, you're supposed to go to the Gurukul and study for 20 years. Not usually done nowadays, but at least they get the mantra. So this, of course, has been added to our Vaishnava Diksha. Previously, the Vedic Diksha was an independent process. For instance, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got his thread when he was 5 years old because he had to study the Vedas. He was a Brahmana. And it was carried out independently by the family. Later on, he went to Gaya and he got his mantra, Krishna mantra, from his guru. It was a separate ceremony. So that was how it was carried on until the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. At the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he took the Diksha with the Krishna mantra, and then he added the Vedic Diksha, giving the Vedic Gayatri, having the samskar with the fire sacrifice, etc., thread and mantra, etc. So he added that. What was the purpose? The purpose was to show that anyone who is a bona fide authorized Vaishnava by taking Diksha is automatically qualified to do anything that a Brahmana could do. That's all. Not that we're trying to become Brahmanas, because Brahman is a lesser category than being a Vaishnava. But if you are Vaishnava, it includes everything else, including being a Brahmana. So just to show that we were qualified for whatever a Brahmana could do, he gave him the thread and the mantra. So that's added to our Diksha ceremony. But the essential element there ultimately is the mantra that we get so we can worship the deity. So the Uttama, when Lord Chaitanya was talking to the people of Navadvip, he says, he who can make others chant purely the name of Krishna, he's the best. So in other words, the preacher who can instill enthusiasm in others to take up chanting of the name, he is considered the best. But in terms of Bhagavatam, then, this refers to a person who looks at this world and he doesn't see anything about the material world at all. He sees everything in terms of prema. Everything is devotional. Just as when the gopis look around them in Vrindavan and they see the trees or the rocks or the flowers and the fruits and the river, they see them all as serving Krishna. They don't make any distinction between the river and the flowers and the fruit and the cowherd boys or anything. So, these are all devotees of the Lord. So a person who's in that Uttama category, then he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, even the demons. So he doesn't see the demons as demons even. Anyway, in this particular verse, we got this discussion of the Madhyama, which is the stage we're at. The Kanishta doesn't associate with the devotees, doesn't have proper knowledge, etc. So this is not a stage that we want to emulate. We're trying to get knowledge, associate with the devotees, and progress. So then we're generally in this Madhyama category. So this is, the Madhyama is the one who associates nicely with devotees. He associates with other Madhyamas in equal way. He gives instructions to those who have no knowledge, that's the Kanishtas, who have a little faith, and he serves the Uttama. So in this way, the Madhyama serves the different types of devotees, but in different ways. Okay. So the sixth verse is also about association, but the negative aspect. So this verse talks about avoiding offense to the devotees. So the other verse was about association, etc., and how to respect the devotees in different ways. This verse is about criticizing devotees and how bad it is for our devotional development. The devotee should not see another devotee as a material being, seeing faults in his body or faults produced by karma and his nature. The spiritual nature, the Ganga, is not dissipated if the water is contaminated by foam bubbles or mud. So we always look at the devotees, especially the advanced devotees, and what looks like a material fault, we don't see that. We're looking at his spiritual advancement. So respecting the devotee is very important. This is how we get mercy, and we get knowledge, and we get realization. So we have to give proper respect. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that we approach the person with knowledge, the tattvavit. And how do we do that? Pranipat, pariprashna, and seva. So pranipat means to be flat on the floor, basically. To be very humble, be very respectful. So if you're humble and respectful, then you can get the knowledge. Then you can get the mercy. If you're very proud, the guru is not going to give the mercy. It's not going to give you the knowledge. And even if you get the knowledge, you won't understand it. You won't accept it. So we have to have that humility, very humble heart, and we have to acknowledge that we know nothing. Then we can accept the knowledge properly, get the mercy of the devotees. So the opposite of that is to disrespect the devotees. Then we don't get any mercy, no knowledge, no realization. So we don't get any benefit at all. But it goes further than that. Not only don't get any advantage, it actually acts as a something which will destroy our devotional service. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya compares the disrespect for the Vaishnava to a mad elephant. And the mad elephant will go into the village and just madly destroy everything, including the crops and the houses, etc. He's big and everybody else is small. He steps on everything. So the offense to the devotee or Vaishnava aparad is such that it can also destroy the creeper of bhakti. Creeper of bhakti is just growing up. It's very little, and aparad can stamp it out. So we have to be very careful of the Vaishnava aparad or disrespect of the devotees. Very, very important for our spiritual advancement. So this verse mentions, seeing various faults in the devotee. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Harinam Chintamani also mentions things like we should not see bodily defects, we should not see material birth. So a person may be born in the wrong family. He's not a Brahmana, he's Sudra, or he's a Chandala, therefore we don't want to respect him. But that's all material vision. That's considered offense. If we look at the sinful activities a person did before he became a devotee, that's also considered to be offense. Just as in the case of Mrigari the hunter, he was a cruel hunter who liked to wound the animals and watch them die. So very, very bad, not even a Sudra. But he got the mercy of Narada Muni, and he followed his instructions. He gave up his hunting activity completely, even though that's the only way he knew how to live. He gave that up, and he had a family. So he gave up that, and he followed Narada Muni's instruction to chant the holy name. So we cannot come along and say, okay, this hunter, very good, he's advancing, but look at what he did before. And we start criticizing him for his previous activity. Oh, he was a hunter and he watched the animals die. So we don't have to consider him so elevated after all. So that would be an offense. We don't look at sinful activities previous to doing bhakti in this lifetime. Devotees start with faith and they begin bhakti, and we go through a process of anartana vritti, by which the different bad qualities, anartas, begin to get smaller and smaller and smaller. But they're not really erased until we get to prema. That's when all the anartas are gone completely. So it's a gradual process by which the bad qualities will be dissipated. So there may be some bad qualities that manifest or show up in a devotee, even at present. So we also don't unduly criticize those qualities if they don't interfere with the bhakti or other person's bhakti. We understand that eventually, through the process of bhakti, those bad qualities will also be dissipated. And even if the person commits a sinful activity now, even that is not a cause of condemning that person. So we say, well, how can that be, You do a sinful activity, we're not supposed to say anything or praise the devotee. But we see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says the same thing. Even if the person has committed the most sinful activity, sudurachara, I consider him to be my devotee. One should consider him to be a devotee even then. But there's a condition. That is, he continues to have his strong faith in the Lord. He continues his worship of the Lord. So, because he still continues his devotion, then Krishna says, I accept him as a devotee. And whatever sin he's done, the reactions will be destroyed by the process of bhakti itself. So therefore, the Lord does not consider the sinful activity to be so serious. And therefore, the devotees also should act like that. Okay, so we have to avoid criticizing the devotee and not look at him from a material point of view. Of course, one of the reasons why we have to give respect to devotees is because they are the cause of bhakti. And as I said, it's through the devotee in respecting him that we'll get the mercy and the knowledge, realization, etc. And if we disrespect the devotees, then it's blocked off. So we cannot advance. Okay. Though the holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all sweet, the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of ignorance cannot taste its sweetness. By carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish gradually develops and the disease is destroyed at the root. So this verse describes a remedy for the people who don't have a taste for the name or commit offenses, etc. So our miserable condition in the material world is compared to sickness, like jaundice, which is a disease of the liver. And when you are afflicted with that disease, sweet things taste very bitter. So we don't like to taste the sweet things. That, of course, is our illusion because we're sick. The name and the qualities and the form of Krishna are very sweet, but because we are afflicted by the jaundice of material life and attraction, Krishna's name does not taste very sweet at all. It tastes bitter. So that's our condition in the material world. But the nature of the sugar or the sweetness is such that if you have jaundice and you take the sugar candy, even though it is bitter, you get cured. And eventually you can taste the sweetness. So similarly, Although in the beginning we have too many material attractions and we don't have attraction for the name and it tastes very bad. We don't want to chant. By continually chanting, gradually our material sickness decreases and we begin to develop a taste for the name and it becomes sweet. So we start in a miserable condition of sickness, and by continually chanting the name, then gradually we get cured, and then the name becomes very, very sweet. So we correct ourselves and come to a proper healthy condition by chanting the holy name. Yeah. So the first verses describe all of the different problems that arise in this material world, which are basically the opposite taste, because we have a taste for material things and we develop, the vegas of the tongue and the mind, etc. The name does not taste so sweet. But by following this process, as I mentioned in verse 3, and then associating with devotees in verse 4 and 5, and avoiding the aparadhs, then we can come to the position of getting taste for the name. So it will require some time, but eventually the taste becomes prominent. We have these different stages of bhakti: shraddha, sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, nartana vritti, nishta, and then we get ruchi. So when we get to ruchi, then that taste is very strong and very positive. And it's not a problem for us to continually chant the holy name. So that's a good aspiration for the devotees. They should aspire for this. The devotees performing sadhana bhakti should always be attentive to the condition of their devotion, preserving the state yesterday and improvement made today. So we have to be a little bit introspective about our condition of chanting and our taste. If he perceives that after some days no progress has been made according to the stages given above, you must understand that some offense must have been committed. Having diagnosed that offense, he should give up that offense and correct the harm done by associating with devotees. So we should be introspective to see our level of advancement, how we're advancing, and also cause of why we're not advancing. Often it is aparadh or offense. Then we have to understand what the offense was and correct that offense, and at the same time continue to take shelter of the holy name and associate with devotees. And then we can succeed in growing or nourishing the lata of bhakti. Okay, any question? Well, it's one way of getting to prema, but that's on the path of archana. So, of course, that's the pancharatra process. So we follow pancharatra scriptures. Then there's basically a deity worship process. And to do deity worship, you need the mantra. And doing that, then you can, it's an anga bhakti, so archana leads to prema also, like sravana or sadhusanga. It all leads to prema. That's one way you can get to prema. Chanting the holy name is also an anga bhakti, so you can also get it by chanting the name, get to prema. But in that case, you also need some knowledge. Jnana is also necessary. So you do need sadhusanga and knowledge, so you can take shiksha guru. So it doesn't depend on diksha, but at least you need the shiksha, and then you could get to prema. So either way, you could get to prema. Generally, in our sampradaya, we do both. So Lord Chaitanya took Diksha, Nityananda took Diksha, Advaita Acharya took Diksha, and Gadadhar took Diksha. So we'll see that nobody really avoided Diksha, maybe only Haridas Thakur or something like that. It's not really mentioned. Somewhere it's mentioned Advaita Acharya was his guru, but it's not so clear. But anyway, they by and large did take Diksha, but we should not overemphasize that also, because throughout his teachings, Lord Chaitanya is just saying, chant the holy name, chant the holy name. He's not saying, doesn't say, take Diksha, take Diksha. And the main process that we have now is chanting the holy name. That's our main thing. deity worship is there, the Diksha mantras are there, but the main process for our elevation is Nam Sankirtan. So traditionally it's been there in the Sampradaya, but we can say also maybe it's a little overemphasized as time went on. It becomes, let's say, a convenient way of claiming authority or identifying who's the authority. Well, who's your Diksha Guru? Then you can trace your lineage back. If it's Shiksha, then people will contest, well, how he can prove that he accepted you as a Shiksha disciple, and it's a little bit more vague. Whereas Diksha, there's obviously you got a mantra and you're chanting, and you got worshiping the deity, so you must have got the mantra from that person and whatever. So it's a convenient way of tracing your lineage and your authority for at least Pancharatric lineage. So it got maybe a little overemphasized. And after a few hundred years, mainly you would identify yourself by who's your Diksha Guru type of thing, But we see the elevated devotees themselves did not pay so much attention to that. So, and then when we come to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he just reversed everything, and he didn't even trace the Diksha lines at all. He traced a Shiksha line to emphasize that the Shiksha was even more important. Of course, Harinam is most important, but then we do need the Shiksha also. So he put more emphasis on the Shiksha. If we look in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Adi Leela, there it says Diksha Guru is there, Shiksha Guru is there, equal. Treat them equally. So therefore, we can say that either is accepting either is a way you get prema, or both. So as I said, generally we take both, but sometimes the Shiksha Guru may be more prominent, and the Diksha Guru just gives a mantra, but then the other one gives more significant teachings and guidance. So then the Shiksha Guru often gets emphasized more, historically speaking, in our sampradaya. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. In the Nectar devotion, we have 3 items concerning Guru. The first one, to surrender to a Guru, not necessarily a Diksha Guru Padasraya. And the second was Diksha Shikshadi, to take Diksha and then take Shiksha from him. And the third one is to respect and give, honors to the Guru. So there is a little more emphasis there upon the Diksha. And of course we do see in the 5 important elements, Archana is also there among the 5, along with, chanting the holy name and Shravana and Sadhusanga and living in the holy Dham. So it's also an important item. And he doesn't also give extraordinary prominence to Nam Sankirtan there. He doesn't say it's the Yuga Dharma in Nectar devotion. But we do see that come out in Bhakti Sandarbha more, that the Nam is, the Yuga Dharma and more important. And there he puts in fact, the whole discussion of Diksha takes place only because he's discussing the Archana Anga. So he directly puts it under the Archana category there, the Diksha process. So it is a process that we do, but again, as far as Lord Chaitanya is concerned, the chanting of the holy name takes more prominence. So why he particularly emphasizes the Diksha in Nectar devotion, I don't see that the Goswamis have explained that. But one reason maybe is because many of the items of the 64 are also related to deity worship, if we look at them. Mm. 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 Yeah. Well, it's impossible not to associate with non-devotees in the material world. So, because we do live in a society, if you are just a renunciate, you can walk off into the forest and not associate with any, but that's not the majority of the people. So, when I said that association, of course, any type of association can affect you, even physical proximity, but the more serious type of association is intimate association. So when you treat the person you're working with, who is maybe materialistic or whatever, in a very friendly way, and you get strong bonds of affection, that's when you start getting the bad influence. Huh? So at best we can be friendly to them, at the same time not get overly affectionate in the sense that we are swayed by their ideas and their habits. Yeah. So, and also we do have to respect all living entities. That's also one of the angas of bhakti. Don't disturb any living entity. This is one of the angas of bhakti. So, and is emphasized also in Kapila's teachings that we have to give respect to all living entities. So, even for these materialists and people at work, we give them some respect, and we can be friendly with them, but we don't get too close also. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Giving what, the knowledge or the... Okay, yeah. Well, it would depend on the situation, but obviously, I said, in the position of knowledge, the person with no knowledge gives to the person with less knowledge, so automatically one is going to be receiving, one is be giving. It's not that the disciple is giving knowledge to the guru, so it's natural for that type of relationship. If it's equals, then of course it's kind of equal. You give a little knowledge, he gives a little knowledge, you receive a knowledge, like that, or with food or with other gifts or whatever, it will be equal. But when it's a superior or inferior, then it becomes a little bit different. So according to the person you're dealing with, therefore maybe the responses may be different. Yeah? If it's equals, then we try to equal it out. Yeah. Which was the where? Yeah, there's no definite way you can do that. All we can do is, let's say, eliminate certain things, and what other things we did do, and then maybe based on that we can try to figure it out. It may be difficult also in many cases because the aparadhs may be not even intentional. They may be, it's accidental, but it can cause a decrease in the bhakti, as in the story of Rupa Goswami, who laughed and a sage was walking by and he got offended because he was walking funny. So then the sage thought, oh, Rupa Goswami is laughing at me because I'm walking in a funny manner, I'm lame. And so he got angry at Rupa Goswami. And then Rupa Goswami didn't even know the person was there. He was just laughing at Krishna's pastimes. But then he noticed a few days later he did not have a taste for hearing and discussing about Krishna anymore. He said, what's happening? I lost my taste. So he went to his elder brother Sanatana Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami said, oh, yeah, it must have been you committed some aparadh. And he said, well, I don't meet anybody. How can I commit aparadh? There must be some intentional aparadh. So then, if it's unintentional, you don't know about it, how is he going to find out? So then he thought for a little while, and then he thought of a method. So he organized a nice festival in Vrindavan, and he invited all of the different devotees, the sadhus, to come. And festival means eating. So he fed all of the devotees very nicely, like that. And then he noticed who did not accept the invitation and eat. He's the person that must have offended. So then he saw one person was there and he wasn't eating. And then he said, oh, this is the person they offended, so he went and apologized to him. So that was his method of finding out. But there must be some reason why the advancement is not there. We have to carefully consider. If we can't figure it out, go to another devotee. Maybe they can give some advice also. What it means? Yeah. So shiksha basically means teachings. Yeah? So one who gives teachings. Now, The Diksha Guru also gives teaching, so he's double. He's a Diksha Guru because he gives mantra, and he's a Shiksha Guru because he gives teachings. But then there are gurus who only give teachings, but they don't give you the Diksha mantra. So they would be called Shiksha Gurus, not your Diksha Guru. He maybe give Diksha to someone else, but he's not your Diksha Guru. So for instance, we see that we have someone like Baladeva Jabusan. So he had a Diksha Guru, but then he took a lot of teachings from Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. So he's called it Shiksha Guru. But his Diksha Guru was Radha Damodar Goswami, I think it was, in Puri. So Diksha Guru may have both functions, but the Shiksha Guru is solely the function of teaching. This course could be in, various categories of teaching. Some very, let's say, elementary teaching even. But usually when we refer to Shiksha Guru, we're thinking of something more elevated, someone who gives very significant teachings. So Vishnu Chakravarti giving very significant teachings to Baladeva Vibhushan, for instance. It's not that he wasn't giving some insignificant teachings, some very significant teachings. So that usually refers to someone who was very instrumental in that person's progress and gives a lot of inspiration and knowledge to the person. There is no formal ceremony for that. However, that does not mean that therefore it's less important. We have ceremony for Diksha. We don't have ceremony for Shiksha. So therefore, we will say, okay, the Diksha Guru is more important because we have a ceremony for him. But that's not actually shastrically correct. It says Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru equal. Should be given equal respect. So if you do have a Shiksha Guru who is giving significant inspiration, then you have to give him the same respect as the Diksha Guru. And as I said, though we put a lot of emphasis upon Diksha Guru and ISKCON, actually we're kind of using the term wrong because we're not respecting him because he's giving you a Diksha mantra so much. We may be respecting him for giving teachings, but then again, often the Diksha Guru doesn't give that much teachings because you may meet him once a year for 5 minutes or 2 minutes, or maybe not meet him at all for several years. So you're getting teachings from someone else. So that another person may be a stronger influence on you because he's giving Shiksha. But nevertheless, generally we only give the worship and respect to the Diksha Guru. So it's like a little bit of a distortion of the Shastra conjunction. Oh, you could have many Shiksha Gurus. You can have only one Diksha Guru. You can only take one mantra from one set of mantras or one mantra from one guru. You can't go around and shopping for mantras from different gurus and take many Dikshas, because then you'd be worshipping many different deities. So you only take one Diksha Guru and you worship one deity. But Shiksha, you could have many gurus. It can be plural, not singular. Ramanujacharya had, I think, 13 Shiksha Gurus. Okay. Okay, fine. Hare Krishna.